I'll go ahead and start the question and answer session that we've asked our general contractor and window contractor to come today. The gentleman in the blue shirt is Sean Sharp. He's with CPS Property Services, which is our general contractor for the restoration. Sean will be the project manager on our project. And then Terry Crow, the gentleman in the neon shirt, is with excuse me, Crow Industries, and that he's the subcontractor for the window part of the restoration. So we just wanted to ask you to come and talk about the differences between vinyl and aluminum frames. I don't know if you were able to get any pricing together yet. So if we have that, we can distribute that to the community by email. But if you're not quite there yet,
I'm still going to put it in with the package with everything else that we discussed,
okay.
And I should have that to you probably first of next week.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on a couple of things from Gar.
All righty. But we did want questions also from the community to specifically, you know, what your questions are about windows, sliders. So I'll kind of open it up to Sean and Terry. I think maybe if you could talk a little bit, Sean, about the process that we might have to go through. If there's significant concrete damage around windows or sliders, what kind of has to happen there?
If you have significant concrete that goes into your unit for some reason, and it's not uncommon, if you'll find spalls, we have to take it back to good rebar. So what would happen is we would then get with the association and schedule us to come in and build an inside barrier wall, which would consist of basically 2x4 framing and like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch sheathing to protect. We would then seal around it and put plastic on the outside of it to kind of help with the weather for the meantime. We would remove the sliding glass door or the window, repair the concrete, and then depending on whether or not you were going to get a new slider, new window, what have you, we'd either put the new one in or replace the existing one. At that point in time, we would pull out the hard wall barrier, is what we call them.
And so part of the issue with if you have to remove a window is whether or not that window is up to the code for today. So if it's not up to code, it cannot be put back in.
I'm not 100% on that one. Because I know I've done some one-to-ones. I've pulled it out, repaired, and put back in.
It's a local building.
It's a local
official question.
I would have to get with Pond Stanley to see what their codes are on that.
That's my understanding from our engineer.
Okay.
But we do need to verify that.
I can.
The other part of that also was, even if it is still up to code, but the manufacturer doesn't make the install kit anymore, then it can't be put back in.
If we don't have the parts, we just can't do it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that question? I can't hear you. Say it again. Yeah, we're gonna have to speak up because of.
Can't hardly hear it.
An hour for maybe. So that question was, or the statement was that our engineer has indicated that if a window is not up to current building code, it can't be put back in. And even if a window is up to current building code, if the manufacturer no longer makes the installation kit for it, then it can't be reinstalled because you can't just, they can't get the parts to do it and you can't just use any screw.
Once again, you're probably not going to have to remove the windows of the sliders unless there's damage.
Correct.
So normally they'll stay in place.
Right, but we want to,
Yeah.
We want to put it out there so that everybody is quite aware
that
that
this
there's a
will
possibility.
happen. Yeah.
I have a question.
Prices are
Excuse me,
Can you guys make sure that everyone mutes their microphones? There's terrible buzzing.
And part of that is construction going on in the building. We've asked,
Oh,
we've just set
okay.
somebody up to try to get that
Okay.
stopped for the
All
next
right, thank
one.
you. Okay.
But we will try to either have people move up to the front to ask a question, or we'll try to remember to restate the question. So
Mike, so you won't know to the last minute whether you need to have your sliders replaced or not, or are you telling us ahead of time?
we can only tell you a window ahead of time when the engineer and the contractor is on the stack of units that they start doing concrete work on. That's when it's really going to reveal the damage. We don't know the extent of damage.
We know though in the engineering report where, when that was done, where they saw damage.
Okay,
So.
Okay.
And to follow up with that, if you have some damage, say you have your curb where your slider is sitting, and you might have some damage, right, a spall on your deck right close to that, they can't see how far that might go in.
okay.
So there have been cases, and it's not a lot, I will say that I've dealt with, but there are some cases where they might go in maybe a foot.
Okay.
So just to make sure that the concrete's repaired correctly and the rebar is resupported.
So do you already know of some units that do need?
Did you receive a large white envelope mailing that was about 14 pages long about a month ago? It has the diagram of your unit as the
I'll
last
look
page.
at it again and see.
And it's indicated by moisture damage.
Okay.
So if you see an MD around any of the windows, that's an indication. But there's also other reasons that there might be moisture damage. One of them is if you leave your windows open a lot, there's a metal bead at the corner. It might show rust, which
Okay.
might only be from the atmosphere,
Sure.
but we don't know yet.
Okay, thank you.
And
That diagram also shows the concrete falling
Yes.
out on the
If there's-
balconies and on the walls.
Okay.
Balcony and then windows still damaged on any side of the building.
And speaking for TJ with United, I don't want to overstep, but everything that they spot on the outside is kind of an assumption. They know they can see it, but we don't really know what's going to happen, how far that's going to go. I mean, you could have a surface fall where the concrete's right there. It's not going to move, but if that water has penetrated severely, then we've got to fix the steel.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason that went out early in April was to give owners as much notice as possible that if you had any doubts about your windows, or even if you just had original windows and you feel it's time to replace them, we believe this is the best time to do it with the general contractor while the rest of the building's being restored and not renovated, but being restored. All of that equipment's going to be here that an individual window contractor would need.
We like to say, you're going to hate us now and love us later.
Yeah,
So it's, bring it all together and get it done if you guys wish to.
I hope that applies to the board too. That's my hope.
I have a question regarding, so say you do need to get your windows replaced, right? But you don't know until you've dug into the windows and you find out you do. How is global issues with supply affecting getting new windows into your unit? Is there a backlog? Are you guys seeing that?
This is why we're jumping on it, and I'm gonna speak over you, Terry. This is why we're jumping on it now. So we can get the pricing out to you guys, and you guys have an understanding of what's there, what's gonna need to be done, and you'll have a choice once we give them the pricing to do that ahead of schedule. If not, it's kind of like a hit or miss. If you guys decide not to replace your windows and doors, and we get to it and we have an issue there, then it's probably going to happen.
And if that happens, what's the solution? So you pulled everything out, what I want is not available, what happens?
You're waiting.
And
3
the
months.
global wait is 6 months delay, back order.
So, we've got two different quotes in product. We have a vinyl and an aluminum. The aluminum is running in about the 3-month range. Vinyl is 4 to 5 months. And then there is an option on the aluminum to go to an upgraded finish, a Duranart finish. that could add 2 to 3 weeks to the aluminum side. So probably if you looked at aluminum and figured 3.5 to 4 months, and vinyl 5 months.
Again, so I'm waiting 5 months. What are we doing with the hole in my wall? Are we just putting 2x4? What are we doing?
If we
to
know
cover
that we're
hole?
gonna have to go into your interior, we're probably gonna have to hold off.
Okay.
At that point in time, we have a conversation with everybody involved, and we say, hey, how do we want to go about this? I don't want to leave you 5 months with an interior barrier wall that's very ugly and no windows. So yeah, conversation should be had.
Okay.
But I'll add to that, if that causes delays in the whole process, if that causes the company to have to come back when everything is finished, those expenses have to be borne by the owner. It's not an association issue at that point. It's your issue then. So that's also another reason we're trying to get this information all up front. People have information to make their individual decision. We got a question on the phone, Bob Tamminen. Unmute.
Yep, I did. Takes a second here.
Okay.
I just wanted to step back a minute and talk about the removal of a good slider that would otherwise go back in. If that window is damaged in the process of taking it out and it can no longer be put back, who assumes the responsibility for buying that window at that point?
I would have to say it's contractor liability if we damage it taking it out.
Okay, thanks. That was my question.
There was another hand on the computer.
Mark Galvin.
Mark Galvin.
Yes, if the windows, I mean, obviously a lot of these windows and doors are the original windows and doors. So when you were talking about whether or not they're in code, I guess that's something you can check to see whether or not, you know, one, that they're in code if we take them out. Second is that you mentioned that you need to have manufactured parts. It would seem that you'd be able to find out ahead of time, with so many windows being the original ones, whether or not they still make the quote install kit or installing kit today.
I would seriously doubt that the 20-year-old windows would be in code. They're not even in code. I know the code changed in
2006, I think.
But
even from our first assessment back in 18, when our first bid package was written, TJ had to
Rewrite the specs.
rewrite the specs on windows because the code had changed. Now, that doesn't mean that 3 or 4 year old windows are no longer in code. They probably are, but the code for the pressure.
But I'm assuming that you're going to check on those things before we go any further, is whether or not the existing windows that we have are the original windows and sliding glass doors are in code. And obviously, if they're not, and we pull them out, well, then we know we need to have them replaced. The second is that assuming that they are in code, the next question is whether or not the install kits are available, because if the install kits aren't available, then we have to replace the windows or things. So I guess what I'm trying to find out is whether or not we can even keep the existing windows, because they are existing windows and doors, because one, they're not in code, or two, that there's no manufacturing kit.
I think, Mark, that we can maybe ask about as-built, the original windows, but people over the 20 years here have replaced windows with several different manufacturers and companies. I don't think, excuse me, I know Ryan does not have the time to do that. I doubt CPS wants to take that on. It's beyond the scope of the association's responsibility. I understand there's some state website where you can input product information. It'll come back and tell you if it meets code.
But I mean, but Doris, but my point is that you're already going to be talking to the Ponce Inlet Code Enforcement. And they should have an idea of whether or not the windows, I mean, it's not like they're unusual. You know, they had 100 units here that were installed at that time. So I would just think that either the contractor would be able to just glance at some of the ones that are, including mine, is saying, hey, that is definitely going to be out of code or not.
So in answer to that, it would have to be a by unit process to go in and take a look at your windows, look at the tagging that's on the windows and find out. We can go to Ponce Inlet, which TJ probably already has, so I could go to TJ and get your code for that. It would be a matter of you know, putting it together and saying, hey, okay, I've got this window is in code. Nope. You know, if I got this window is in code, yes, it is. That's how we'd have to do that process.
Okay, is there a way that we can go ahead and look at our windows to find out, like I said, that code number to be able to provide that to you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways that if windows and doors have been changed, a permit should have been pulled, and at the city of Ponce Inlet or the county or wherever the permits are pulled, they would be able to, because paperwork would have had to been submitted, the notice of acceptances, the product approvals, and that would be able to come back and tell us exactly if it's code compliant in 2022.
And if they haven't been if they're not if they haven't been replaced, we're making the assumption that we haven't been that long, is that means they were original windows? And is there a way to be able to find out what the then model number is?
On the original windows?
Yes, by looking at the windows themselves or doors.
I can look at the original windows, but in walking around, they do not have impact glass in them.
Or portaglass.
So they are not an impact rated glass or impact rated window or door, and most likely, if it's facing it needs to meet the turtle code, which is a certain shading coefficient, which is going to require gray tinted glass and a low E in today's world to reflect the heat out. I don't know if it's turtle code compliant or not, and I'm being told that they are not. But an original window in here does not meet the impact requirements of the Florida building.
Okay. That's what I was trying to find out. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had an owner ask by the chat feature asking if there were install kits for original windows. So if original window came out, do you know if they, how would we know?
I would think the install kit is probably going to come back to the sliding glass door and the frame that goes around it. A lot of times they're deteriorated. When the fasteners come out, there's rust. You can't get the sill track again. You can't get the jambs or the header. And then you're trying to find something that's going to work with the door and with the jambs and the frame, and then accept the panels as well. At that point in time, what we're doing is putting a non-certified, non-rated door back in, and that liability can fall outside of where we want liability to fall should the catastrophic thing happen and the doors blow out or something of that nature. You know, as far as the windows, from what I see, they have a typical 1/2-inch flange that goes around them. I don't see them as what they call a sub-sill receptor system in it, that a frame like a sliding glass door is put in and then the windows are tipped into it. If that window comes out in good shape, it should be able to go back in. However, you are taking a 20 or 25-year-old window out. It's not going to be in probably proper working condition now, and then it's going to be stored, and there's other screws in there and balance systems that will get tweaked and they're possibly rusted. It's a tight spot to take those windows out and put them back in, and then them working the way that a homeowner is going to want them to.
But the biggest factor is the impact capability and the turtle glass, which are new codes. So I think that's the piece we all have to keep in mind is our original windows. I have original windows and I had them assessed recently. They are not meeting impact code and they don't have turtle tint appropriately. And I think that's going to be the issue for a lot of original, that is the issue for original windows, and they're not going to meet code. So I think we all have to be aware of that.
I have a question. Someone told me that above a certain floor, you didn't have to have high impact.
It goes, and again, it's probably a good municipality question. From 0 to 30 feet is what they want, large missile impact. From 30 to 60 is small missile impact. 60 and above can have no impact. And I don't know if that code has changed. The concern about going to a non-impact above the 60 feet is you're only as good as the glass is. The frames are all the same, but the glass is what becomes the problem. And what happened down in Miami, I think it was Wilma that came around, and glass started breaking at lower levels and getting caught up in the wind and started breaking glass 18, 20 stories in the air. And then when you come down to it, the difference in cost from this non-impact, maybe above 60 feet, and the impact, there is a difference, but it's not a huge difference. And the offset in insurance can certainly recoup that difference. But
You have shutters, you do not need the impact glass, right?
if you have approved impact rated shutters, correct. You need to meet product that would meet the energy codes, which all of it would. But you're correct. You do not need impact rated product.
I have a question. Is everyone required to have the shutters?
No.
Okay, so if we have a ground floor unit, so I notice the unit above us has none. So let's say we have a storm, we're going to be compromised because they don't have shutters. So whose liability is that? How is that dealt with? Because we have shutters, we're on the ground floor, the one above us doesn't. So I'm assuming that there would be water would come through, and where's water going to go? It's going to go down. So we're compromised automatically because they don't have shutters if that would occur. So then my question is there a requirement? You say there isn't.
Correct.
So to me that's kind of problematic. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
But anything that goes in new has to be impact glass.
Right, I'm talking about
or shutters.
Right.
So you would be, so anything new going in, you would be, in theory, you would be protected.
Right. So in other words, if the people above us had impact glass, they wouldn't need shutters.
Right.
So they'd need one or the other.
Right.
And so
that's
maybe they have impact glass. That's why they don't have shutter. I don't know. It's just a logical question though to ask. From the liability standpoint, how would that be?
Yeah, I mean that would almost come back to a condo, individual condo situation on what they would require.
Nothing against the owner above us. I don't even know who they are. I'm just saying that that's something that I'm somewhat concerned about.
Terry, we had a shutter presentation recently.
Okay.
And the gentleman who did the shutter presentation talked about the fact that if you have impact rated hurricane windows, that really is wind impact, not necessarily rain. And that he was encouraging that you really needed both in order to protect our units so that the shutter protects more around the rain. Could you respond to that?
Absolutely. And that's a great point. So an impact rated product is the glass and the frame per se, that something can hit it and it can crack the glass. But when that glass cracks, it's still as strong as if it wasn't cracked. And where I'll use that is you've seen cracks in windshields. and you drive up and down the road and nothing happens for that. That's the laminated glass. So that piece of glass is cracked, but it is still as strong. So that's against debris impact. The next thing you have is water. Wind-driven water over hours and hours of time can breach the door. Does not mean that the door has failed or has not performed correctly. Its doors can only handle so much water and wind-driven elements for a period of time. So what we have and what we always do is we give you the best against it. So this is a sliding glass door track. This track will have a 4-inch water leg on the inside of it. So this is the outside of the track. So here would be a 4-inch riser. And that 4-inch riser is simply meant to that this door can now hold 4 inches of water all the way in that track. So you could be standing in your unit, have wind-driven water, and when you look down in your track from inside, see water in there. Now you start getting up into, probably some 160, 70, 80, 90 mile an hour. The higher up you are, the more forceful it is, and the amount of water. Can it breach and come over it? Absolutely. Does that mean that the door was not certified for this building? No. Does it mean it was installed properly? No. It was just, it's Mother Nature taking its course. And in the bid documents, the engineer has specified against that, or you specified, I can't remember the numbers, 12 or 15 pounds of water, which is some of the highest pressures that the doors could take. And that's again where that riser comes up. So those are the two things regarding an impact requirement.
You're mentioning the pressure can cause that problem for water penetration of the doors, but that's not so on the windows?
It is so on the windows as well, but there's a riser on the back of the window that when the sash shuts, it seals behind it. But there's not in the windows, there's not an open tank like there is with the sliding glass door. When the single hung shuts and it locks, it's sealed down.
Okay, now, if you get windows that don't,
Fixed glass can take a lot more pressure and penetration than a single hung window. A horizontal roller window that slides, and I think some of those are on the balconies, those are more susceptible to water because you actually have a sliding piece. The water goes down and it sits in a tank. But again, on a sliding glass door, comes down and locks, the water hits it, it theoretically runs out.
I have another question. So we have to redo the front windows as well, right?
I have not seen, I don't think that wasn't part of the,
So
just any of the walkways.
Just the
The
case,
front
though.
Yeah.
front windows.
Right.
We don't have to replace those.
Well, it depends on if there's concrete damage around the windows. That's what hinges all of this.
Okay. And now if you have shutters like
Yeah.
these, you have to take down the shutters and everything?
These kind of inside shutters,
Yeah,
only if your window has to come out.
then they have to come out.
Yeah.
Yes, because we'll have to take out the return drywall in order to get the window in and out.
And then you replace everything.
We
don't-
replaced the paint finish.
But not the shutters, so we have to call the shutter people to
Yes, ma'am.
replace it.
Or just to put them back up. It doesn't mean that you have to buy new ones. And it is to paint ready. So you're responsible to paint around your window to match the color that you have.
So what are the options of the different windows? I know you said vinyl and aluminum.
Yeah, and those are the two options. We can do the aluminum product in impact. We can do the aluminum product in non-impact. The non-impact would have insulated glass, which are two pieces of glass with an airspace, so you get a lot better performance out of them, energy-wise. The vinyl, there's an option for impact. In the non-impact, a vinyl sliding glass door can be used, but an aluminum window would have to be used in conjunction with it. The vinyl window cannot conform to the structural design pressures that the engineer has put out for the building.
In terms of longevity, is one preferable over the other, or versus vinyl?
You know, not really. If you look at the windows that you have in here now, they're aluminum. The aluminum is still the same as the aluminum was 25 or 30 years ago or 20 years ago. So the aluminum is going to last, and the vinyl is as well. Warranties, the vinyl carries a lifetime warranty against pitting, chipping, cracking, discoloring. The aluminum has a 10-year finish, and that's against the chipping, pitting, cracking, fading, etc. They are speccing a Duranar paint, which is a very good paint, lasts against the elements.
Factory applied or?
Yes, it is factory applied.
Yes, so it's like a car finish almost.
Correct. Correct. The moving parts are stainless steel. These are the rollers that would be in the sliding glass door. Very durable and strong. Fasteners are stainless steel. So that's the.
And the glazing is just impact versus non-impact. You're not, are there options in terms of like the performance?
No,
Or that
it's all considered large missile impact glass.
Okay.
So you're going to have your laminated piece of glass, which are two pieces of 3/16 glass with a lamination film and an airspace, and it's what they call a sacrificial piece of glass that would be the gray tint, would be the outside part with the low E film.
Okay.
So in that glass package, we are meeting the impact requirements, and then the solar heat gain and U factor requirements that are set by the state.
I think, so my mom's on 3. I'm actually just a renter, but right now, so we're renting on 1. And I think we have the original windows on 1, but I'm just here to talk to my mom about it. But the performance of the original windows, it seems like it's like people are gonna see a massive improvement.
Huge difference.
In terms of heat gain, because our unit, like, it's super hot just because the sun's coming in.
Huge difference. Yeah, you probably now can stand by the existing windows and
Feel
you know, just
Oh, yeah.
it's unbearable.
I've
Yeah.
also heard people say the noise difference is amazing.
Yeah.
That the older windows, you hear a lot of noise, the newer windows, one person commented that they don't hear the waves at night anymore.
Okay.
So.
Good or
Yeah, there is a big difference in the noise. And as far as the heat, you know, you can stand, put your hand about this far away from the new impact product with the insulated and the airspace and the low E film, and you won't feel heat. You know, you'll feel a little bit of warm in here, but you're out here room temperature. Big difference.
So you may be spending it on the windows and saving it on some of your.
That's a great point.
Can we speak to the process a little bit? Let's assume I want to replace my 3 sliders. Potential time frame of being down in the unit. You remove like the old hurricane shutter rails, that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I'd like to hear about.
I'll just mention that if you have hurricane shutters, that's a different company. And we had a guy here a couple weeks ago there, we just posted his presentation. So anything dealing with a shutter would be a shutter company, but then the windows would be CPS and Terry.
So the process, typically we work stacks. So we'll start at one side of the building. I'll just go through a quick, we'll start at one side of the building and wrap our way around. We kind of flow it. So, you know, we overlap each stack as we go. Once we start taking that stack down, we'll get into demoing your decks and everything, taking the railings off. Once that coating or finishes are off the deck, the engineer comes in, he inspects the deck for any kind of concrete issues that you may have. Once that's decided, we start opening it up, looking to see where this might go. If it goes into your unit or he sees where we still have section loss at that point, you know, where the rebar goes into your unit. So then we start the process of, hey, we're gonna have to get in here. we get in, we build the wall, demo out what we need, repair the concrete and put it all back. Usually per unit, I've seen it take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks on that process,
Just depending on the existing.
depending on how bad the concrete is. So once the concrete's repaired, new window goes in, wall comes out. We fix anything that we might have screw holes or anything like that on the inside, bring it back to paint ready. Your returns are put in with the drywall. We move out and we're back out on the decks.
And Sean, if you have to lift existing tile, if you have to go into a unit because of the rebar, then the owner has to take responsibility. You don't fix that.
We'll bring it back to be able for finishes to go back to it, yes.
Okay, so that tile that needed to be replaced would be the owner's responsibility.
Correct.
Just want to make sure we all know what happens with that process.
And so looking at my mom's report, she's got a lot of damage on the walkway by her front door.
Despondent tile, the big black squares, is that, yeah.
So does that mean that, is she still gonna be able to get in and out of her unit while that work is being done? Or does she have to figure out?
I have a feeling this tile is going to come up real easily. But we'll work with you where you guys can access your units while we're demoing. When we go back with the coatings, there will be a time where we will have to have those units locked off. It's more of a safety factor. I've had this question come up on every single job that I do. And I totally understand because it's unhousing people for a small point of time. However, I can't lock you in the unit because that would be a safety issue, fire department type thing. But we also want to get the coatings down and get them down correctly. We've had people just walk right through base coats, and what that does is, or any finished portion of the coating at all. What that does is I have to take that back up and then redo it again. So now you're extending the time and the price and all that kind of stuff. So we ask for your patience on that. We don't like to unhouse you either, but it will be, and we'll flow it per deck, per floor. We might say, okay, this floor, we're going to have it for a week. And it's a 3-step process with the finishes they have. We can keep you in the unit up until we start the coatings. That day we start the coatings, I have to have that deck cleared. And it'll make the process quicker. So 3 steps, you'll get a base coat, you'll get a top coat and sand, and then you'll get a final top coat. Once that dries for 24 hours, you can come back in.
So she might need to go find somewhere to live for a couple days.
Yes.
About a week.
Because we have to
More than
factor
a
in,
couple days.
if they do the first coat and then it rains, then we might have to wait.
Weather is an awesome factor too. That just.
And there is a certain amount of curing time between each layer, so they can't just put one layer down and it's tacky, put the next one down. That's why it's a week-long process.
Summertime, we have a lot of help, and then we don't have a lot of help depending on weather. If it's hot, the coatings will cure faster. Typically in that notion, we could probably do a deck of your size, the walkway of your size, a step a day, depending on weather. And then we like to have that fourth and fifth day just for curing process, everything to cure, anything that we might have to fix that had, we'd had oops or something like that. We utilize those, but we will do our best to get you back into those units as quick as possible.
And people will be given notice, because one of the things Sean will be doing is meeting weekly to say, here's the schedule. So you'll have ample notice that that floor is scheduled.
Yes.
To prep that when you have to not go. And one of the things CPS stressed to us was if anything happens, and they gave examples that, say someone said, oh, gotta get in my unit, and you walk on it, then they have to go back to the process. So it delays us again. So we just need to be mindful of that and courteous of everyone else who's on our floors.
We do, when we're grinding and profiling, we do use HEPA-Vax, which helps with the dust. That process is very ugly sometimes, but the HEPA-Vax do help. It doesn't help completely, but it does take the dust factor down. When we're demoing the tile, we have guys currently putting them in buckets and getting them off the floors. So we're trying to get rid of any kind of a trip hazard or anything like that for you guys to get in your units. So, and the guys typically do a cleanup. We'll have a guy come through and sweep up, clean up, and your deck will be your walkways, I keep saying deck, your walkways will be free of anything you can get hurt with.
But that said, we are gonna notify folks when it's happening on your floor. We're gonna ask that you restrict your coming and going as much as possible. So if you can leave for the whole day, go to a movie, go shopping, whatever, visit friends, that will suit you best too. You won't be hearing all this noise, you won't be tracking dust into your unit. So we are thinking ahead. We do plan to give as much notice as possible, but again, with the caveat that the weather can throw us off and we can't control that.
When is all this starting? When are you gonna start this?
We're hoping to start it late summer, early fall. And as Sean said, it'll start on one building. I think your plan is that you pretty much complete one building before you move to the next.
Yeah, the idea is now is probably starting here on this building and wrapping our way around and talking with a contractor as far as a grassy knoll. He would like to come in, and it's something that everybody, I discussed with you already, he would like to come in prior to even starting and maybe get this grassy knoll out of here. And the front landscaping up there. That way we can have access to it. What we'll do is we'll wrap the building this way. This will be our last drop on this building. We'll move to that building, do that drop. That way we can start on that grassy knoll as soon as we finish that drop, and then we'll wrap the building, the south building as well.
Mary?
I had basically the same question, but if you're doing this building for any chance, what, 3 months, 4 months before you start on that one?
We've scheduled 16 months for this.
For both the whole project, 16 months.
So splitting it 8 months per building is what we're shooting for.
So we're talking around Christmas time.
Later.
Later.
Yeah, because if they start, let's say, September on this building, 8 months from then, we're probably starting on Tower 9.
That's what we're shooting for, but we have a couple good storms or some rains or anything like that. That's obviously gonna, something we do during hurricanes is we tighten everything down. We'll make sure that everybody is secured in their units. We will tighten all of our stuff down, lock it down, usually get rid of the dumpsters and all that kind of stuff. So that takes a little bit of time to get it back. It'll probably we'll get everything out of here with a day or two because that's all the notice that we have, but it'll take a couple, 3 days probably to get it all back. And yeah, so all that throws into the process.
Ryan, anybody on the computer with the hand raised? No.
Under, from what I heard in other meetings, under ideal conditions from today, we're looking at finishing approximately 2 years out.
16 months. 16
on the
months.
project, so 16 months from when
We
they
start.
start.
So from today, we're looking at a couple of years out.
Yeah. Yeah, from today.
How will storm doors be handled?
Those are owner responsibility, owner installed, basically. We should not have issues with the front doors of our units. The only issue that might come into play is when they remove the tile from the walkways. It may require a different threshold for your door because, you know, the tile's this thick and the coating, they are going to profile the walkways, which means they'll gradually slope them away from the building so that we get positive drainage that we don't have now. That might require something on a threshold, but we won't know that until, because every door's kind of different around here too.
Thank you.
Anything else? I did want to just circle back a little bit to the windows. The county is who controls the beach and the turtle patrol. So I had a question a couple meetings ago about these end units that have all these windows. Are the west side windows, do those have to be turtle tinted? By the county, the west side doesn't, but any window that can be seen from the beach, from any angle from the beach, has to have the turtle tint. And in order to keep the look of our building as uniform as possible, we are requiring gray tinted glass on at least the 3 sides of the building. The west side, you don't see as much because they're recessed. In my opinion, we need turtle tinted, we need an R factor on the west side. We are not allowing blue tint any longer. Windows that have been put in with blue tint kind of skirted under our rules at the time because we really didn't have a specific rule about windows. We assumed people would keep the same look, but that didn't happen. So we want to safeguard against that in the future with having a real patchwork of windows.
Does that make a difference where fixed or open?
The other thing we need to look at, and we do plan to have a meeting on this with the committee, is these windows here that are on the side, right? The original ones you can raise and lower. Some folks have put in fixed where you can't raise and lower anymore. Some of those have this mullion that makes it look like it's that white strip halfway through, makes it look like you can still raise it. This committee needs to make a recommendation about, do we want to keep that half window look? They can put a false mullion over that fixed pane to make it look the same from the outside. But right now, again, because of no specific rules or process, we have a mix of look on the north and south sides. Liz?
When would we expect to see a price list of the various options that you've talked about?
I'm putting the package together as we speak today, tomorrow, with everything, and then I'll send it to Doris.
So it should be early next week. Jim in the back?
So will the owner have the choice between fixed windows and windows that open and close?
Yes, I definitely
And both are gonna be quoted.
Yeah, yeah. We just have to decide on the mullion look. Mary?
Just to follow up what you just said about the gray tint and a possibility of being able to keep our windows because they don't have any water damage. On my little 2-bedroom down there, I have the 2 sliders that are new because of remodeling. And I have the 1-bedroom window that is an original window that has no water damage, but you're saying I'll need to replace that because of the gray tint?
No, no.
If you replace it, it has to have.
Thank you. Okay.
And I think that we've been putting out all this information because we are gonna come back to you with pricing and a deadline. If you want to order windows, you're gonna have to commit. Because of the lead time and we need to know how many people are gonna want to do this as part of the restoration project.
Also, the future possibility of price increases as it just continues to skyrocket up. So the sooner we can get you locked in, the better off we are.
And Terry, what kind of deposit would an owner need to put down if they decide to order?
Cut the board, I think you said.
I thought it was 50%.
Yeah, 50%.
So, yeah, Sue, that's a good point. If you are intending to replace windows, you will need to be prepared to put a 50% deposit down on that. That'll run through the association. So when you send in the form that you were gonna order windows 1, 3, and 5, that price will be calculated. The 50% deposit will go on your account through Century, and you'll have X days to pay that. If that's not paid, windows will not be ordered for you. And then you're back to the possibility of, waiting if it can't go back in, or replacing your windows whenever you choose down the line.
And Terry, is there a volume discount?
There is. It's kind of hard to say where that dollar figure puts in, probably somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 worth of product would trigger.
For the whole project.
Correct.
And also I believe that the balance is due upon installation, is that correct?
That would be correct.
Good.
Just one more question, so I understand correctly. So if you're saying all three of your sliding glass doors are fine and nothing's wrong, but if you don't have the gray tint on them, you have to replace them?
No,
No.
no, unless the county comes back and cites us, and we know it's your windows, then but even then, you just have to keep your drapes closed at night.
Okay.
But they do come by
They
and
do come by and-
periodically inspect. And for people who don't have turtle tint and they don't have shades drawn,
They'll get,
they will.
let us know.
Yeah.
okay.
And the way that they let us know is most times they don't count which unit it is. They just give us a blanket, like last year, they give us a blanket warning. If they have to give a fine, it'll be a blanket fine. That, you know.
Yeah.
And how do you figure out whose unit it is?
If they can't specify it was third floor, second from the right,
Yeah.
we won't know.
Unless the board goes out there in the dark
Yeah.
and does our own inspection, but maybe that day that we inspect, the owner's
I'm out of
closed their,
town.
or the owner has closed their shades and they didn't, the week before. I don't know why the county can't be more specific than just our building number. Bob Tamminen, hand up.
Yeah, with regard to turtles, I checked, I read some documents that said that the light, if it's visible from the beach, as I recall. Now, for the higher floors in our building, unless it's an extremely low tide, they wouldn't be visible. And in fact, I've been out there and looked. Is there a more definitive ruling on that? I've heard issues that if it's east facing towards the water, it has to have turtle glass. Does anybody know the exact ruling on this by the county? Thank you.
Sue mentioned a little bit ago that she's having windows replaced. When she started this process, the permits were sent forward. And kind of in the middle of this process, she got a whole separate mailing from the county, from Volusia County, with specifications in there about turtle glass. So she had to have a notarized signature that she read this first. And then there's going to be a separate inspection from the county on the color of her windows to make sure they're blocking. And the first page of that she shared with me, it's a consumer advisory. And it says, notice to owners installing new windows or glass doors within the line sight of the beach. So to me, that says anything that can be seen from the beach, whether it's the 7th floor or the 1st floor. Be advised that the sea turtle lighting ordinance requires all glass within line sight of the beach to have a visual transmittance value of 45% or less. So that 45% plays in or comes into play with the amount of tint that you put on the windows. So I think, Bob, that really says anything, any window any floor that you can see from the beach, which would even be our side windows here, our north and south windows, depending on where you're standing on the beach too.
And this held up my permit to do my reno until I had this notarized and submitted. Ponce would not issue my permit for my renovation. So I think it's going to be something we all have to contend with.
And if CPS is replacing windows here, just like if you brought in a private contractor, it has to be permitted by unit. So they will be coming back, and inspecting by unit when the window work is done.
And for new.
Thanks, Doris.
And
Thanks,
new,
Bob.
New doors and sliders, what kind of a warranty comes with those? I've had owners ask me that question.
Yeah, the vinyl frame has a lifetime warranty against it, chipping, pitting, cracking, discoloring. The aluminum frame comes with a 10-year warranty, but again, with the Duranar paint that the engineer is requesting to be put on it, it will last a lot longer. But I'll even point to the aluminum windows that are in here now, 25 and 30 years old. The aluminum is still good, and the finish on them is still good. So you'll have, warranty wise, 10 years, but you'll get a lot more out of that. The glass packages, whether it's aluminum or vinyl, 25-year full replacement of the glass of it failing. And failing is within airspace, you get some discoloration, and it's what they call failed. After that, it becomes prorated out 75%, 50%, 25%. So very, very good warranty on that. The labor to replace that piece of glass, full replacement labor up to the first year. After that, labor is what would be chargeable, but the glass is replaced for free up to 25 years.
Things like warping, or like, for example, some of the old doors, like the old door in the unit we're renting, doesn't close completely. Like, so it's clearly warped or something.
If your door warps and won't close right, and it's just something from a material aspect, that's covered under warranty.
Okay.
And who would they go back to for that warranty?
They could go to CPS, or they could come to me direct, however you would want.
I think we still run the gamut with it. It'll go through us as a general contractor, and then we'll just run through like we're doing for the subcontractor.
Because I did have some comments from owners that they were worried about warranty issues, and they're being followed up on.
So I'm going to follow up on that because I have old doors and I have them, sticking off track. So annually I have my doors serviced. That's not the kind of, and it's mostly the salt air that's causing that. It's not something that I don't think is warranty related. It's more the environment.
That's correct.
Could you, I think we should differentiate that as well, because that's common to this.
Yeah, I mean, any maintenance on your doors would be required, by the individual owner. We are in a harsh salt environment, so, hosing them down, washing them down certainly increases the longevity of them. As I said, the moving parts on a sliding glass door are really the rollers, and this is the stainless steel roller that is used. Under normal use, normal wear and tear, normal you taking care of the product, there won't be an issue. If something becomes warped, and we have not seen that, certainly we would come out and look at it and get it replaced. It's a sliding glass door panel. They'll send us a Holden panel. But those things really shouldn't happen under normal wear and tear and opening. And I mean, the frames that go around the sliding glass door panel, they're about that big, so they're sturdy, robust.
Thank you.
I have newer windows, and it's now even like a double lock system. There's a lever that's on the top and on the bottom, and when you lock that door, you almost can hear it push, it really pulls the door together. And I was going to ask about the maintenance. We've been told you should wash the frames off on your windows periodically. If you can do it monthly, you should be aware of keeping up with that. Yeah, clean out the track. If you see the caulking starting to shrink and pull away, that it needs to be recaulked.
I have a question. The docks, I don't know if they still say it, but they said we could not wash our balconies off only when it rains.
Yeah.
We can go months
I know.
where I can't wash my balcony.
Yeah.
And then I've got to be available when it's raining to wash it off. So can we call the people down below us and say, we're going to rinse ours off this afternoon?
Yeah. One homeowner had even suggested that we schedule a time when, once a month, when we say, be aware, everybody can wash their windows at this point. We didn't do that
20 years.
change, and I'll make a little plug for a product that we found online. It's a battery operated, low pressure kind of pressure washer. It's got a hose that you put the bottom of the hose in a bucket, a 3-gallon bucket of water, and you power wash around, the frame and your windows. And you're not Another neighbor told me they have a hose bib in their laundry room and they drag a hose through their unit out to the balconies.
I've done it from the garbage chute.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have an extra hose.
yeah. So, to me, the simplest thing is,
But you have.
easy, but yeah, but, and I think we probably do need to explore after the restoration about
A once a
a
month.
once a month timeframe, and you might not be home at that time frame that month, but hopefully you will the next month, kind of thing. But I think if you feel you do need to do something of cleaning on your balcony, a call to your downstairs neighbor is, or if you don't have their number, contact Ryan, ask Ryan to try to arrange, something. Any other, hands on the phone? On the computer, anybody just on the phone have a question they want to interject? No?
It's a lot.
Anybody else in the room have any follow-up?
Just one other question.
Doris, good morning. It's John Murray.
Go ahead, John.
Hey, a couple quick questions. Does this contractor also do replacement front doors and storm doors?
Front doors.
I think if there's enough of them, that we would, again, it would be probably more inexpensive per unit for somebody local to do it.
So you would suggest somebody local doing
Yes,
it
ma'am.
rather than with the restoration? Okay.
And then should we wait? Our goal is to do all of the windows in the unit. Should we wait then and do the door after the project or before the project?
Your front door? The green door?
Door. If the general contractor can't handle it, do the subcontractor do it before or after?
I would wait until after.
Okay. And then that doesn't,
Probably best to safeguard against any damage that possibly could happen. The contractor does take a lot of safeguards to keep any damage from happening, but there's always that freak thing that could happen. Anything else, John? Anybody else?
There was
Oh,
an owner through chat said since the owners are fully responsible for the windows and there's some options to consider, what is the process to arrange a meeting with the windows contractor?
Yeah, I can meet.
Like, would you be providing your information that they could call you and maybe set up a?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
and that was part of the goal of today, was to get some initial questions answered, give you as much information, as we can at this point.
I would suggest maybe as a whole for the association and the owners, maybe send everything you got from this point on. And you guys just send us a list. I can send him the list and we can just answer it through.
Yeah,
Probably
we
be the
could
quickest
try to
process.
coordinate it, and even if possible, have a time when you come and hit as many of those owners as you can in one talk again. And it sounds like you would be probably needing to go to their unit to look at
That's
something specific.
and that's what we would want to do. Whoever's going to have their product changed.
And we did a initial survey to the community. Are you at all interested in replacing windows? We got a fair number of responses on that. So we do kind of have a tentative list. Now, once we have pricing, we'll go out and say, here's pricing, indicate if you're really intending to do this, and then we'll pass those names on.
Yep.
Okay. Was there another question?
Yeah, I just had a question, and maybe it's premature at this point, but once we determine the cost of the windows and then the overall project, I mean, that would be kind of two payments we'd be talking about. It's unknown what the total project will cost, and then at some point we'll know that. We'll just be notified of that, and then you'll notify us as to the cost of the windows will be given an opportunity to participate in that with you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, that's fine.
And I'm not sure how much lead time we can give from,
Sure.
here's all the pricing information, make your decision in 2 weeks or
Sure.
1 week or,
No, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, we're not here though from like, no, we'll be back a little, like for the first 2 weeks of July, we leave in June. Be here 2 weeks in July, we don't return till December.
But there'll be email correspondence.
Yes,
But I mean, if we wanted to talk to you about the windows, is there any way we could do that before we leave?
Yeah, you're leaving in June.
We should leave June 7th. Yeah, because, I mean, my kids use the unit, but they can't make the decision, we have to, so.
Sure. I think once everything.
Yeah.
Maybe a global to get a list on everybody who wants to, and then he can just come knock them all out.
okay.
Okay.
Sue was just suggesting that even before we get the pricing, make another inquiry to the community, do.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry.
what I was proposing, you had said, once we knew pricing, we would then provide Terry the list and
Mhm.
Sean. I think we give you what we have now because people may want to have that conversation to make their decisions. So,
And I don't remember what I answered on interested in
Yeah.
those or not, to be honest.
And I kind of feel like pricing is gonna make people's decision.
Yeah.
And, to have Terry spend time with somebody who doesn't know the price and then here's the price and is like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it. So we will try
I
to
think we
get,
want more of a commitment because Terry, you have to measure each unit's windows.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
even though you've measured
a few.
a
Yeah.
few, like an O1 and an they could be varied
Slightly different.
slightly
Sure.
by unit, so,
No,
I just don't wanna
just
take
tell her.
a huge amount of your time.
Yeah, and then there's also individual questions regarding shutters and if they're inside the opening or on the front
Right.
face and, questions around the sliding glass door that they're all individual
Right.
things that certainly come out.
Since we don't really have a recollection, or she doesn't, as to what we're an 8103, so if you want to put our name down as, that number down as one that would be
And if we could talk to you before we
Yeah,
leave, that'd be
interested in the
awesome.
new, just with you.
But the first 2 weeks in June, you were still here. Is
no,
that
they're
right?
leaving.
Oh,
No, we leave June 7th and then we'll be here like the first 2 weeks of July and then that's it.
I have one more quick question. Is the profile the same size on the or it's the same?
yeah.
It's a great question. The vinyl has a bigger profile of frame.
Okay.
So if you put the aluminum, I'm gonna say from the outside to maybe the inside is 2.5 inches and it may push 3.5. With,
On the full perimeter.
on the, 3.5 all the way around.
So you're
Correct.
looking at like an inch difference.
Correct. That's correct. Sliding glass door frames, same exact size. If you had a vinyl sliding glass door and an aluminum sliding glass door, and you were where you're standing, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference whether it was vinyl or aluminum.
They're gonna look a little patchy from the outside if some people choose aluminum and some people choose vinyl.
You will see a difference. You were out here and you looked straight up, you'd have aluminum, and if you got the vinyl, it would go a little bit bigger. Where the windows are joined together with right now the single hung and the fixed glass, it's bigger with the vinyl than it is with the aluminum.
Okay.
They'll line up, but
Yeah, the outside's a little
it
bigger.
is bigger.
Okay.
It is bigger.
And one issue on windows that we didn't have you investigate is all of these west side windows. Some of the units were built out, the lanais, when the building was originally built. Others were not, and they put in storefronts, and even some of the storefronts went in with original. So we did not ask Terry to measure or price any of that because it's such different configurations. So if you are interested in replacing windows and you want the west side done, that would be an individual thing with Terry again, and then he would have to price those separately for you. Steve Mizrahi, you had a question?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is the glass made in the US or you have to outsource it? And if so, is it gonna be a supply issue?
No, all the glass is, it's local. It's either out of Cardinal, which is, in the Ocala area, or it's done from PGT's glass plant down in Nokomis, Florida. So it's all local. But PGT also owns about 5 or 6 other companies, one being Windor, one being CGI, one being Echo, and another residential window. So they've got a number of sources for glass, but none of it.
That was my concern.
Yeah, none of it is out of the country.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else on the phone?
Jerry Montgomery is in.
Yep, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Just one quick question for the window team to help me move my process fast and not have to meet with y'all. If it was your condo, which window would you put in yourself?
Yeah, great question. I have aluminum in my home, PGT, WinGuard aluminum, the insulated impact, the sliding glass doors, and the windows. That was before vinyl came out. Probably from a sight line and just a smaller frame around the glass, probably leans me more to an aluminum fan. But I guess that's my answer would be aluminum, but I have no problem at all with the vinyl.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Was that Jerry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was me, Jerry. Thank you.
I wanted to make sure we caught the hand raised on the computer and the phone.
Mark Galvin has his hand.
Mark Galvin, go ahead. Mark, you're not unmute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
On the west side, did you say that you're not going to replace, we're not going to be able to replace those windows, or maybe I just understand the windows on the west side.
Right. What I said was, we did not ask Terry to price any of those yet because there's such different configurations. Terry did go around and measure the north, south, and east side windows of the different units. So they'll be able to put together, unit 01 and 07 has windows A through F type, and here's the price on all of those. Again, they did not price west side windows, but if you are interested in replacing windows, Terry will come measure that out and then give you a price separately.
Yeah, because one of the windows that we have, of course, we've got one of the ones that are by the elevator, and the one that's in the bedroom, I would think would be pretty standard through the entire stack.
And I think we did add that.
You
We
measured
did.
mine and
That was the last one, Terry, that,
The
Hey,
04.
yes.
we made it.
Yeah.
You
So
are
that-
My unit.
yeah,
correct.
Mark, that one will be on the list.
Great, thank you, Doris.
Jerry, again.
Jerry?
Just one quick follow-up to your point. What's the process for raising my hand to have my west windows measured and priced?
We're gonna send out an email again, asking people who want specific measurements or Terry to come and look at their exact windows. You'll respond to an email that we'll be getting out in the next day or so.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next
Thanks,
week.
Jerry.
It'll be next week, so not the prices.
I'm sorry, when I said the next day or so, it'll probably really be early next week because we won't have any pricing yet in the next day or two. But if pricing doesn't really matter to you at this point, you can let Brian know by email that you want to be definitely on the list.
Jerry?
Yeah, just one other quick thing. I've been a association president before. I just want to say thank you to all of you and compliment you on the great job you're doing. I know you're getting a lot of grief probably, but I for one am incredibly impressed and pleased and appreciative of the level of effort, time, and the focus that you all are bringing to this. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the kind words. We appreciate it.
Amen to that.
Thanks. Another one.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And anybody that comes up with any questions, in the next day or two, you can send those to Ryan and we'll get those to, Sean and Terry. Thank you all for joining, attending. Have a good day.